Hello, and welcome to the space between ideas. I'm Blaine Gates. We are thick in the thin of things. All right, let's figure this out. So today, if you saw the stuff from yesterday, then you know that we are creating a app to help people to manage projects. And now that we have AI, well, you can see that I'm having all kinds of problems making the actual software. The only software I was able to successfully build my app with was Fire. What is it called? Firebase Studio. The problem is that after you use your $300 that Google gives you to use their API, then they start charging you. And I think it's because, like, why did they charge me $36 for just a really simple change to the software? I think it's because the Google API has a very large context window, and it was using the full context to look at what I was doing with the app. And then when I asked it to make the change, it actually did the change. It did it perfectly, and cost $36. So, can you replace like a real software developer with AI Firebase? I guess so, because it did everything I needed it to do. There's also a problem because at some point, like, how can you actually run a software company with just an AI coding software? Because eventually you're going to run into some problem. You're not going to know how to fix it. And then what? Like, at some point, you have to call somebody for help because it's like, I don't really believe able to run a company. What happens when you want to make updates to their software and then what if it just doesn't work? Like, at some point, I don't know. Like, I'm not really ready to rely 100% on AI. But on the other hand, because the world is turning to AI, what I realized is that you have to be able to do it with AI. So just figure out how to use AI to the best of your advantage. Now, I think the main point that everyone points to about, okay, how do you better? What's the difference between me and you using AI? The only difference is prompt engineering. So prompt engineering basically means that, like, I know how to use AI to help me, and the whole point of the application that I'm building is prompt engineering. All right, so let me show you what I mean. So if we jump into Mira, you can see here that um, that's interesting, actually. You can see here that this application that I'm building, the purpose of the application is that I want to help managers to have brainstorming discussions with their staff. And by having these discussions with their staff, what they can do is they can make sure that everybody's focused on the right things. All right. Now, um, what do I mean when a manager is helping their staff to make sure they're focused on the right things? What I'm talking about is a brainstorming session. Well, what's the problem that we have with brainstorming sessions? The main problem with the brainstorming session is that you have to, like, what? You're going to ask some questions. You're going to ask what? You're going to say, hey guys, let's think outside the box. Yeah, but that's not going to really work. You can't just say, let's think outside the box. There, like, you have to be able to understand, like, what are some questions which will spur us to think outside of the box. What are some themes that we can talk about? What are some ideas that we can bring up? What are we actually going to do to be able to think outside the box? We can't just magically think outside the box. And that's where the work of Thomas Buchholz comes in, where he's basically saying, listen, I got some things that I want to talk about. And if you talk about these things, you're going to be able to think outside the box. So then I tested his work with lots of students, and then eventually I turned it into this little application. All right. Now, when you're starting to use AI, it's actually the same point. So if you just say, okay, AI, can you think outside the box? I mean, it probably will be able to do a good job, maybe even better job than you with coming up with some new ideas. But if you can prompt it, if you can brainstorm, if you can use some specific give it some nudging, give it some specific direction, then you'll be far more successful in the process of getting the output that you really want. And the book that Tom wrote, it's called Create Crucial Insight. And he's saying, if you want to be able to create insight into the endeavors that you're working on, perhaps even crucial insight, if you want to see the difference between striving and thriving, then you're going to need to prompt engineer yourself. But now we have AI, so now we can actually prompt the AI to give us better results than maybe we can get with our staff. Obviously, there's still it will be helpful when you're having meetings with real people to be able to get them focused on the things that matter the most. Maybe they're going to go back, they're going to use AI, but at least send them the questions, give them the right questions in order to get better answers. All right. So yesterday, what I did was I took all the different files that we made yesterday. I put them in my product requirements document. And well, I got a problem now. So we got the project documentation management guidance from the 1st of May. Introduction, overall goal, target audience, problem solved, core methodology. The issue comes when we get down to, okay, based on our discussion, particularly the discussion of multiple projects inspired by deliberate practice. Okay, here's the projects, the objectives, and then we get into sprints. Now, I don't know if this is actually the sprints that we were supposed to be doing. And then what? Core MVP development. And then we're on the first objective. And then we break it down. Well, now we got to build a scoreboard. But why do we have another project core MVP development? Here's the scoreboard. And then what's this? Now, I think what I should do is these instructions provide clear goals and actions for task in sprint 1, guiding an AI coding helper while allowing for necessary technology choices and adjustment. So this is our work from yesterday. So our options are, we can stay in the same coding window, or we can assume that something happened and we lost access to this AI tool. And now we have to start from scratch. I think it would be more useful if we had a problem, like say, oh, we lost some of our information. So now we have to start from scratch. Well, how are we going to do that? Well, I have my product requirements document. But the problem is, look how long this is, right? It's how many different documents, and I'm not really, how many documents is this exactly? And then how do we manage this data? I'm thinking what we might want to do is create a Notion page, because the Notion page, it's a better format. All right, so let's start from the bottom. These instructions provide specific goals and actions for each task in sprint 1. So what we could do is we can go to here, we can write this as sprint 1. And now we're going to put the text in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this code, paste it in here. Now, well, we got a problem. It's like, look, it's not very done very well. Doesn't look good. We're gonna undo. I think we're just going to ask AI. Okay, so I want to paste some text, but I don't like the format. Can you help me format the text as I paste it? I actually don't. This is the first time I've used AI inside of Notion. I don't really see. Did something happen? There's like some line or something. I don't know. All right, so let's just. I don't really know how to use Notion very well, so I'm just going to use the one thing I know how to use, which is what happened? Come on. Man, this is kind of hard to do. All right, so we got columns, we got sync, block, call out, toggle list, to-do list, numbered list, bullet list, toggle list. It's definitely a toggle list. There we go. Now, how do I actually do that? Like, how do I actually copy and paste? Because imagine I want to paste into. Now, I actually want to turn all of this stuff into instructions for AI Coder. Project task 1. Can I actually use AI inside of here? Like, for example, if I do this, I can turn the tasks into to-do items. What the heck is going on? That's completely useless. Wow. Yeah, that was totally useless. Now, I suppose I can probably just copy that. It's not very great formatting, although I do have a question. If I close this and then can I copy this? Copy link. Yeah, so we got some paste, we got some, what do you call it? How do I create a markdown file? Like, does it have to be inside of? Okay, what are we gonna do with this? Obviously, I can't do it like this. This format is terrible. All right, anyways, for now, let's just leave it like this. Now, this is our last one. What's this? This is a scoreboard? All right, let's start over again. Okay, so can you read everything on this wall, or has some of the text been forgotten or removed? All right, I need to create documentation, and I like the toggle, feature in Notion so that I can see the names of projects and then see see various files as they relate to projects. And I think it's more difficult to do that inside of Google Docs, but the text format in Notion is terrible. We need to look at the above markdown files and save them into Docs, most likely, and then put the links to the Docs in the Notion file to keep all the documentation in an orderly fashion. Which documents, markdown files, and information would we need above saved in how many different files and in what order, so that by uploading them one by one into a new context window, you would have the best access to the ideas and concept and be able to help me continue with the project. Let's just listen.
Okay, that's a very practical question. How to best structure the information we've generated so you can efficiently bring an AI coding helper, like me or another, up to speed in a new session if the current context is lost.
Exactly.
Given how AI models process information sequentially, uploading logically structured, separate pieces of information in the correct order is crucial for rebuilding context effectively. One single, massive file might overwhelm the context window or make it harder for the AI to focus on specific areas later. Based on our conversation, I recommend structuring the information into 4 separate Markdown files, uploaded in the following order. 1. Link to project_overview.md. Content. Section 1. Introduction and overall goal. Section 2. Target audience and problem solved. Section 3. Core methodology. High-level description of the 5 modules and their purpose. Purpose. Establishes the fundamental why and what of the project first. Provides the foundational context. 2. Link to app_structure_workflow.md. Content. Section 4. Application structure and UI flow. Descriptions of projects page, modules page, history section, scoreboard page based on descriptions and PNGs. Section 6. Core workflow loops. Detailed explanation of the loops based on the workflow diagram. Purpose. Builds upon the overview by explaining how the application is structured and how the core methodology flows within that structure. 3. Link to module_specs.md. Content. Section 5. Detailed module descriptions, the specific questions, prompts, layout for vision, objective, scoreboard, touch base, brainstorm, and choose, based on the PNGs. Purpose. Provides the specific, detailed content and specifications for each functional component, the modules. This is best understood after the overall structure and flow are established. 4. Link to dev_strategy_plan.md. Content. Section 8. Project breakdown. Rationale for multiple projects. List of the 5 defined projects. Section 7. Competitive context. Brief summary. Section 9. Role-playing exercises summary. Context for planning decisions. Section 10. Next steps. Focus on MVP. Detailed Sprint 1 plan. Goal, objective details, scoreboard, task list we just defined. Purpose. Contains the strategic decisions made about development, multi-project approach, and the current tactical plan, Sprint 1 focus. This builds on all previous context. Order and rationale. Uploading them in the order 1 greater than 2 greater than 3 greater than 4 is recommended because it mirrors how we built the understanding. 1. Start with the high-level vision and purpose. 2. Define the structure and flow of the application. 3. Detail the specific functional components, modules. 4. Conclude with the development strategy and the immediate plan, Sprint 1. This sequential approach should provide the AI helper with the necessary context in a logical progression, maximizing its ability to understand the project state and assist you effectively in a new session. Would you like me to generate the content for these 4 separate Markdown files now?
All right, so now I'm going to just copy this Markdown file. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to create a doc. I'm going to paste it. Project overview. So we're just going to name this one 1, and then editor, copy the link, and we're going to put it back into. All right, so this is foundational for Markdown files for AI. What was the name of it? I don't know. Doc 1, Doc 2, Doc 3, Doc 4. It's still here. What is this? Something. It looked kind of had something cool. Import from connect to Google Drive to update. All right, so for some reason, what? I don't know. Let's see what happens, because, what are you going to do? It's Notion. I think they're... Select file to preview. I don't know. Maybe I got it in the wrong. No, I got it in the right one. All right, let's just refresh the screen. Maybe needs a little bit of help there. Well, it has it. Okay. Nice. Okay. Here, let's get to file number 2. Jump into here. And we're going to make another file. Then we're going to jump in, paste it, click the first one, and then up here, and then put a 2 in there. Now we're going to see how sexy it is this time. Import. What happened? Import or migrate. I think I probably did this already. Now they got access to all my files. Well, it doesn't look this, like Doc 1 looks like this. Doc 2 looks like this. Man, this is not as sleek as I would hope. Okay. Oh, you have to do it as preview. All right, now we're back into file. Pop it into here. What? Okay, that was a little more smooth. And finally, number 4. I copied, so now, and then here, yeah, there's file. Here, 4. Share. All right, we got all our docs ready to go. I don't know what this one is for. Wow, that thing's right in the way. I can't move it to the way I want it. It's right in the freaking way. All right, there you go. So we got the foundational 4 markdown files for AI. Now the question is what? So do we want to test the thesis or do we just want to continue? All right, so what's next? What happened to my audio? All right, so now the thing is that when I'm working with students, when I teach students about my coaching methodology, we usually start, if you go into my course, we always start with this concept here where we discuss how a business is basically 3 concepts, 3 basic functions: making decisions, Now, obviously, those decisions are based on data analysis and thinking frameworks, which are based on what's actually happening. But it's helpful if we actually go into this RACI matrix example. So what I've done is I took a screenshot of this, and I'm going to explain this RACI matrix example to Gemini because I wanted to have an understanding of these different roles before we move forward. That way, it can make sure it's answering these questions from the perspective of the person who needs to be making that decision. All right, show you what I mean. I'm going to upload an image and stand by for the description. All right. This image is a picture of the RACI matrix. Specifically, this was an example in the life of one of the people that I coach. And the lady was a project manager, and she was managing a project where a company was producing some software, and she was the project manager for this specific project. As you can see in the first section, it has the name of the project, and it's about developing automated tests. The software guys that were producing the software, they had too many bugs in their code. Customers were sending messages to the website, the owner of the website, and telling them they had some issues in the code. Now, the first thing that I talk to students about is this concept where there's a difference between B2B and B2C. In this example, we can see that the developers, they don't own the website. They're just producing the website for the owner of the website. And then the owner of the website provides the website to their customers. Now, right now, you and me, you as an AI person and me as a human, we're the only people in this project right now. And eventually we're going to invite a couple of AI developers to join our team. Now, I'm not sure, I'm not sure, but maybe you can figure out a way to communicate with them directly. If you cannot communicate with them directly, then I'm going to have to take messages from you, paste them into the context window of those AI coding helpers. But we're not at that step right now. Right now, we're on the step of trying to make decisions. And let's look at the green section. You can see in the green section that there is 3 different ideas. One is decide which testing tool we will use. Next is figure out which workflows will be prioritized. And finally, set the objectives and key results. You can also see that on the team, there's a team lead, a project manager, a scrum master, developers, tester, QA, meaning quality assurance, an architect, and also a business analyst. So what I'm suggesting is that in this project, I'm going to be the project manager. And I think it would be helpful if you could take on different roles depending on the type of activity that we are trying to complete. For example, if you're trying to understand the software or the UI or the UX, then you would take on the role of a business analyst and you would talk to me because I'm the project manager, but in addition to the project manager, I'm also the UI and UX designer. So you could take on the role of the business analyst in order to better understand the features and what the software should do and how it should feel and things like that. And then you could take on the role of an architect in order to have a big picture of what all of that would look like from the perspective of code and software. And then you could take on the role of a scrum master, and you can plan out the scrums, and you can plan out the sprints, and then you can take on the role of the developer, and you can help me communicate with the AI coding helpers in order for us to actually do the software, to create the software. And then finally, you can also help me as a co-project manager to help me to get through all of the different points of the project in order to finish it. Now, you should assume that I don't really know how to do anything, and you should guide me through step by step all of the processes for us to get this project finished. All right, so as you can hear, as you just heard from me, I decided to use the concept of the RACI matrix because it shows us a really good example of when you're making a decision about what testing tool to use. This is a decision based like what is actually happening? What do we have to work with? And in that case, we're talking about technicians, clerks, librarians. And for the case of a software company, we're talking about these roles. And so you can see how a responsible and an accountable person would make a decision about the testing tool. It means that I'm a project manager. I don't know how to make these decisions. And then when we talk about the workflows, then we're going to be talking about the business analyst and the architect, which means what? And data analysis. So that's the brain. And then finally, when somebody has to make a decision, a project manager or a team lead. Well, the thing is that I have a subscription for a couple of AI coding tools. There's one that's called Windsurf, another one is called Cursor, and finally there's one that's called Replete. Well, I think I spelled that incorrectly. Replit. And these AI coding tools, they might have an opinion about the best way to move forward in this project. So rather than me answering this question, I would prefer if you had a discussion with those coding tools directly. And I'd like you to create a prompt. It can be as long as you would like it to be in order to explain the project well enough that the AI coding tool would understand what the project requires and then ask advice from it to see what types of software language, what kinds of tools, and what kinds of integrations it has in order for us to have the highest possibility of success to produce this software. And also keep it as low cost as possible, but without making any mistakes about quality of tools and quality of service providers. All right, so I think what I'm going to do is, I think we're going to finish up with this video. And then in the next video, I'm going to share my whole screen. That way we can see the, the cursor, the windsurf, and Replit in the 3 different areas of my screen. And then we can see how these different tools are communicating with Gemini. Also, we can decide whether, okay, here's the plain text. All right, my last question is, should I set up 3 windows and have one Gemini window for each coding tool, or do you want to handle all 3 here? Well, obviously. Yes, I can definitely handle dealing with the responses from all 3 AI coding tools. Once you provide the recommendations, I can help you evaluate, discuss. What recommendation? Well, I can discuss Multiple stacks simultaneously. Typically, the most productive path forward is to use the comparison of recommendations to choose one definitive tech stack for the project. Once a decision is made, we can then focus all subsequent detailing, planning, code generation, and implementation discussion on that single chosen stack. This avoids potentially ambiguity and keeps our development efforts focused. So go ahead and gather. All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to create one more markdown file. This is plain text. And this is how we're going to do that. So we need to go back into our Google Doc and then create one more file. Call it first an AI coding tool prompt. Wow. And then share that with our Notion page. Now, just as something I thought would be interesting to just share with you at the very end of this video, is this idea. I saw some guy, he was talking about a new kind of coding option, and it's using Claude. Okay, so we got everything. For some reason, it's not really showing the whole thing, but that's okay. I don't really care right now. I bet if I do it one more time, it'll show it. Maybe not. Anyways, it doesn't matter. So the thing is that there's this video going around right now. This guy is like, I'm too lazy to optimize my website. Now this guy, he's got this thing where he has this Claude desktop. It's called Desktop Commander. And he's using Claude. It uses MCPs in order to create websites. I don't know how good it is yet, but maybe in the future we could take a look at that. As for now, we're not going to, because we're still testing Cursor, Windsurf, and Replete. So we're going to just keep focusing on those tools for now. And we're going to figure out which one is going to, which one does Gemini help us the best with, which one actually can create something useful, and how are we going to move forward in this project. So I'll see you in the next video.